Alright, hello there, thrill seekers. The things I do for my fans. I must have done more research for this video than I've done and leg work, actual work with my legs. I walked 2 miles, I think it's almost 2 miles, up to my office yesterday because we have one car for me and my wife, and she's got the car during the day. So I walked up to my office, got a bunch of stuff out of the office, walked back with Ziggy, who hates to walk across the bridge. We have to walk across a bridge over the 5 freeway, and he hates that. But he did it, he endured it twice, all for you. So you better watch this one. Okay. So why did I do all this work? Well, I got a handful of emails, I think 3 emails from people who were very distressed because they heard that I had stepped down as a Buddhist teacher. One person from Finland was saying, we have lost our teacher, and things like that. So I don't know how many other people think that happened, but I want to put that to rest. I did not step down as a Buddhist teacher. That never happened. But it made me think that the subject of this video could be the whole thing about stepping down and stepping up as a Buddhist teacher. Okay, when you say stepped down as a Buddhist teacher, what is usually meant in the tradition that I come from is what's called a taitoshiki. And a taitoshiki is a kind of a retirement thing that a Buddhist master does who is a master of a temple. And I'm just going to make my hypothetical master a male so I don't have to keep saying he or she. So he names a successor and then retires. And it might be because of illness or advanced age, or he just wants to do something else with his life. And I have some video here of a taitoshiki, which I found on YouTube, just kind of searching for it. And I don't know who this person is or what the temple is. From the looks of it, it looks to be a Soto Zen Buddhist temple. And since Soto temples are the most common Buddhist temples in Japan, well, maybe there's more Pure Land, but anyway, among Zen, Soto temples are the most common, so I'd say it's probably a Soto temple. And as you can see, it's a very elaborate ritual with a lot of people and people giving speeches and ringing bells and doing processions and all kinds of things. Suffice it to say, if I'd done anything like that, you'd have probably heard about it on this channel, but I didn't. It is the bookend. I don't know, I was searching for a word when I was deciding how to make this video. So bookend is the best I can come up with, of a ceremony called Shinzan-shiki, which means ascending the mountain ceremony. Shiki is ceremony. And that's when one becomes invested as the abbot of a temple. And also the same video that I just showed you has the successor becoming the abbot of this temple. I never became an abbot of any temple, so there's no question of me becoming retiring as an abbot of any temple. So all this stuff is just not true. So don't worry about it. But what also kind of interested me to do a video about this is the matter of naming a successor. I've never named any Dharma heirs. I've never made any successors. I've never given anybody permission to teach independently as a Zen teacher. So I've never done that. But it's something that's always sort of concerning to me because there's a long sort of history of people claiming to have been the Dharma heir or given permission to teach by the famous teacher. And now that I'm sort of famous as a teacher and I'm on YouTube and everything and I got books out, the likelihood that people are going to start coming around saying they're my successor becomes more. And while I'm not that old and I probably have a few more years to go, I am getting older, and at some point I'm going to die, and with somebody like me leaving books behind and a legacy of tours and YouTube videos and all that, it's pretty likely that there's going to be people who will pop up, if they haven't already started, by now, who claim to be my successor, because this happens to everybody. So I want to talk about that stuff and how that works. So the best place you can look for information on this is a chapter called Shisho, which is in the first volume of Shobogenzo if you're looking at the Nishijima and Cross version, and I also did a paraphrase of this chapter in my book, Don't Be a Jerk. So one of the things he says, Dogan says here in this chapter, he talks about the certificate of succession. So in the Zen tradition, you don't just get... It's not just a kind of willy-nilly thing where somebody becomes the successor of a teacher. There's a specific way it's done, and it's not done exactly the same way by every teacher, but what is, I would say, reliably always done is there is physical evidence. So the teacher gives you physical, tangible evidence that you have done this thing, that you've been made the successor. And I'm going to talk about that, but before I talk about that, I want to talk about what Dogan says about this, and what I said about the sort of people masquerading as Dharma heirs of somebody. However, among fellows claiming to be distant descendants of Rinzai, so he's kind of getting a little sectarian here, but it doesn't just happen in Rinzai, a certain wrongness is sometimes contrived. Namely, they attend the order of a good counselor, that would be a teacher, and cordially request a hanging portrait and a scroll of Dharma words, which they stash away as standards of their succession to the Dharma. At the same time, there is a group of dogs who, prowling... Oh, there's a dog right now barking at my father-in-law. He has a strange relationship with my father-in-law. He wants to play with him, but he's also terrified of him, so you'll probably hear some barking. Anyway, these dogs, these other dogs, prowling in the vicinity of a venerable patriarch, cordially request Dharma words, portraits, and so on, which they hoard away to excess. Then, when they become senior in years, they pay money to government officials and they seek to get a temple, but when they are signed as abbots, they do not receive the Dharma from the master who gave them the Dharma words and portraits. They receive the Dharma from fellows of fame and repute and the present generation, from old veterans who are intimate with kings and ministers, and so on and so forth. He's basically talking about people who want to be seen as masters, but they're kind of going about it in a shady way. And a little bit further on, he says, sometimes when some undeserving person, out of a rash desire for evidence of succession to the Dharma, wants to get a certificate, a master will reluctantly take up the writing brush, though those who possess the truth hate to do so. In such a case, the certificate does not follow the traditional form. The master just writes some brief note saying, succeeded me, etc., and he's saying that the form of these things is not right. So that's what was going on 800 years ago in China and Japan, that Dogan saw. What's going on these days? Well, I'll tell you one story about when I was sort of, I was going to say the victim of it. I guess I was sort of, I don't want to call myself a victim, though. There was a guy I met, I don't know, more than 10 years ago, at least 10 years ago, who was, when I met him, he was wearing a traditional Buddhist robe. He had his hair very short. I'm not sure if it was shaved or not. He was Scottish, and he talked a good game, and he sounded like he knew what he was talking about, and he claimed to be a Rinzai Dharma heir. And he was a writer, and he'd written a book, and he showed me the book, and I sent it to my publishers because I thought it was pretty good. And then they started noticing something odd about this guy. They had a little bit more interaction with him than I did because they were trying to work on publishing his book. And so they started asking me if I could verify that he was really a master, a Zen master, a Dharma heir of somebody. And I told them about the various certificates and things, and I said if he's a real Dharma heir, he'll have the certificates and he'll show them to you. And he sent them something. They sent it to me. He sent them something that was like a blurry cell phone photo of a document that I swear looked like it was written in crayon, and it was from the... God, I can't remember. It was like from the Buddha Dharma Zen Center of Kyoto, Japan, which is just like, it's such a lazy made-up name. It's not just a made-up name. It's like the laziest. It's like the Jesus Christ Church of Omaha, Wyoming or something, you know, just the dumbest, like you didn't even bother to work on a fake name that sounded believable. So he was a he wasn't a, he was a phony, and he'd been going around for a few years with this, doing this con on lots of people apparently, but I haven't heard about him since then. So there's people around there like that. So that's why I thought I'd do a video showing you some of my stuff. And I went, as I said, to my office. I've got an office down about 2 miles down the road in a little kind of dilapidated office building down here. And I rent an office there where I store a lot of stuff that won't fit in my wife's tiny little apartment. And some of it's my Buddhist stuff, so I went down there and grabbed some of it, so I'm going to show it to you. This is the main deal, and I've never opened this. This is what I received from Gudo Wafu Nishijima when he made me his Dharma heir, and this says Shisho. This is the same words as the title of that chapter by Dogan. And I actually had to, because some of these words are very obscure Buddhist words, I had to go cheat a little bit, and I talked to Muho on email. Muho, who was the former abbot of Antaiji, so he could help me out with getting what some of these words are. This one says Buso Teiden. Buso Teiden, which Muho translated as true, correct, authentic transmission by the Buddha ancestors. I had a hell of a time with this word. This is what hung me up. If you're a scholar of Japanese, this second character Nishijima Roshi is written in an old-fashioned style, and I was just like going through dictionaries going, what the hell is that? So, in case you wondered. And then it says to, basically, tsukitu. This is Ben-A, and how do we pronounce that? Because he didn't use this word. Choro, which means elder Ben-A. That's my Dharma name, Odo Ben-A. And like I said, I've never opened this up. This was given to me. This is the kechimyaku, or this is the. It's not a kechimyaku. It's a. Well, maybe it's a kind of kechimyaku. It's very complicated, all this stuff. But it was a list of the Dharma ancestors from Buddha down to me that I had to write out on a scroll, and then he in front of me put some stamps on it and put a candle on it to show it to me, because that's the kind of tradition, and then folded it up and put it in this little kind of paper envelope and gave it to me. And I've never opened it up, and the reason I've never opened it up is because I don't think I would ever be able to fold it back again. So I've had this for 20 odd years and never opened it up because I'm scared that it won't be. I won't be able to get it back in the envelope anymore. This is slightly related to this. This is a Jukai. This is a certificate of receiving the precepts, which I also did. And it has my Dharma name, Odo Ben-A, and it says precepts, and Gudo Nishijima's signature there from it. So that's some stuff. Also, one of the things that happens in the Dharma transmission ceremony is your teacher gives you pieces of calligraphy, or at least Nishijima Roshi gave me pieces of calligraphy, which represent different things. And I remember one of these represented the secret teachings, which I was very excited about because it was all in an envelope. Oh my God, it got water damaged and it's stuck. Oh God, I'm not going to try to take this out. You'll be able to see it, but it's covered by some rice paper that got water damaged and stuck to it. But one of the things, I think I started to say this, that he handed to me was the secret teachings, and it was all wrapped up. And when I got it home, I'm like, oh boy, the secret teachings. And I think it was one of these pieces of calligraphy. I'm not sure which one was representing the secret teachings, but this says Akashin Katagata, which means moment by moment of red mind, raw mind. This is another piece of calligraphy. Let's see. I opened this up before I did the video and put it back together, but I'm real reluctant to mess with these things because they've already gotten messed up over the years, and I don't want to mess them up worse. This one says Shobo Genzo, and it's also signed by Gudo Nishijima there. That's the other part of it. Okay, this one, I think, another one got damaged and it's stuck to the backing. Dang. This one says Shikantaza, I've often talked about this set of characters. This is the one that is a hand and a nail. It's very, if you don't know the symbolism, it's hard to see that as a hand and nail. That's hand, that's nail. That's the image of the hammer hitting the nail. That means just sitting. And I think, I don't know if I said this, I'm getting ahead of myself. I think this is the one that he gave me that was to represent the secret teachings. But again, I'm not positive because it's all been so long ago. Here's another thing that I received, and this is what I copied to make my certificate, that the one that I folded up and that he folded up that I won't open up again. This is Dogan Saga Kechimyaku, and this is the list of ancestors. And I had supposed to copy it in a circular fashion and not in the fashion I'm going to show you. I think this is the one I might have received during my Jukai precept ceremony, but I had to copy these lists of names in a different way to make the certificate of transmission. So that's all the Buddhist ancestors. Here is the only one of this bunch of stuff that's in English, and it's not really exactly related, but this is something when I was writing what became Hardcore Zen. It was then called Sit Down and Shut Up. So Hardcore Zen was originally titled Sit Down and Shut Up, and then I used the title Sit Down and Shut Up for my second book because Wisdom Publications didn't like that title. This is something that they asked for, Wisdom Publications asked for, because they wanted to be sure that I was actually a Dharma heir of a legit Buddhist master. And they asked me to provide a letter to that effect from Nishijima Roshi, which he did for me, he wrote for me, and I made a Xerox copy before I sent them the original, and this is a Xerox of it. So that's that. Here is a picture of me with a starling on my head, which has nothing to do with any of this, but it was in with the same stuff, and I thought it was cute. That starling was, I found it, somebody else actually found it before me, but wandering around in the warehouse of monsters at Tsuburaya Productions as a baby, apparently fallen out of its nest, and I took it home and I raised it for, I don't know, a month or so, and then set it free. And that was my, I had a baby starling living in my house for a little while. I don't think that date is correct. That the camera I took this with, or somebody took this with for me, would always put the same date on every picture. So it might have been June 22nd, 1996, or it might have been that was just the date that it kept sticking on every picture. I think it was actually later than 1996. Okay, so that's that stuff. And here's another thing that I received. This I received during my Jukai ceremony, which is a precept receiving ceremony. This is called a Rakutsu, and you hang it around your neck like that, and it represents a Buddhist robe when you don't want to wear a full Buddhist robe. But the reason I bring it out is because it's got calligraphy, which is the robe verse. Daizai Gede Fuku Muso Fukudene Hibu Nyorai Kyo Kodo Shoshujo, written on it by Nishijima Roshi. It's the Great Robe of Liberation, Field Beyond Form and Emptiness, Swearing the Tathagata's Teachings, I Vow to Save All Beings. This is given when you take the precepts. And this, the reason I mention this is because I've given a few of these out to people for receiving the precepts, and it always concerns me, not about any specific person I've given them to, but the idea that somebody would want to show these off and say, oh, I've received permission to be a teacher from Brad Warner because he gave me this, and people don't know the meaning of this. It doesn't mean you've been given permission to be a teacher. This one happens to be brown, which is traditionally only given to somebody who is a Dharma heir. But then again, Nishijima Roshi he wasn't so particular about things like that, so he gave whatever color he had on hand. He didn't make us sew them. Sometimes you're asked to sew them yourself, but we weren't, and he would just give whatever color. So I don't know. He gave this to me just before he made me his Dharma heir, so I suppose that's why he gave me a brown one. But it was not given to me at the transmission ceremony. It was given to me before that at the Jukai, at the precept receiving ceremony. So there's a bunch of stuff, and this video is probably going to be torturously long, so I hope some people watch it. But the thing is, if in the future, if you're watching this in the future after I'm dead or something, or just in general, if you have any doubt about whether somebody has been is my Dharma heir, or indeed is anybody's Dharma heir, ask to see their stuff. I got a pile of stuff as Nishijima Roshi's Dharma heir. There's actually a few more things I didn't even bring with me from the office. So you're going to get stuff, and it's going to be physical evidence. And as I said, there are different ways to do this. When in my email conversations with Muho, he described to me how it was done when he did the ceremony, and it was a little different. There was the objects were slightly different, but there were objects. I believe I got a set of bowls and a set of robes. I know I got a set of bowls and a set of robes, which are also at the office. Didn't bring them, and some other stuff from him at the time that I received the Dharma. And so, if somebody's claiming to be a Dharma heir and doesn't have the stuff, then they aren't a Dharma heir. So they're just messing with you, and they're just pretending to be a Dharma heir. And like I said, as of, what day is today? January 12th, 2022, I have never given anybody permission to teach. Now, I may do that in the future, and if you're watching this in the future, things may change, but I haven't done it. So there's no Dharma heirs of me out there, but there are several Dharma heirs of Nishijima Roshi out there. So, there's that. Also, the other point I want to make is, does this mean anything? Well, yes, to me it means something. It means that Nishijima Roshi really, really trusted me and really believed in me as his Dharma heir, and that's something. But he could have been wrong. And it doesn't necessarily mean that somebody who doesn't have this stuff is not a good teacher. There might be, in fact, I know there's plenty of really good teachers of, whatever this is we're trying to teach, who don't have this stuff because they came through it through a different tradition, or it was done a different way, or whatever. There's people I can think of off the top of my head who I think are pretty great, who never got any of this stuff. So that doesn't, it's not an on-off situation. But if somebody claims to be a Dharma heir in the Zen tradition and doesn't have this stuff, well, then they're lying about that, in which case, I don't know how great anything else they're saying. If they're lying about being a Dharma heir, that's all, that's already a suspicious thing. There are a few out there, so beware of the phony Dharma heirs. I don't think there's that many. I think pretty much everybody I know of, other than that guy I mentioned earlier who claims to be a Dharma heir, checked out, and there are a couple famous examples that I probably shouldn't even mention, but there's a couple of people out there who wrote books and things whose qualifications as Dharma heirs were then called into question, and then, I'm sure if you look it up on the internet, you can find out who they are. But I don't want to get into any battles with the followers of those people by calling them out. And the two examples I can think of off the top of my head are both passed away now, but they also established temples which are, thriving, and so I don't want to get into any business with that. And actually, in both of those cases, the stuff that they left behind, the words that they left behind, aren't too bad. In fact, one of them I think is pretty darn good. But apparently they weren't telling the truth about being a Dharma heir. So, make of that what you will. And also the other reason I bring this up is somebody, I saw something on the internet that was saying the Zen master Brad Warner in quotes, as if it was questionable. Well, it's not questionable that I am a so-called Zen master, that I've received the Dharma transmission, but you can question whether I'm a good Zen master or not. That's certainly your right to question, but you can't question whether I have the bona fides. Because I got them. I got a stack of them right here. I got your bona fides right here. I didn't even show you this. I went to great pains to try to translate the wording on this. This is the Dento Rekidai Sosai Shifu, I believe is how you pronounce that. And I spent like half an hour looking these characters all up to make sure I understood them. So Dento is transmission of the lamp, Rekidai is chronicles, Sosai is ancestral masters, and Shi is string, and Fu is genealogy. So it's the genealogy of ancestral masters. And this was actually handwritten by Nishijima Roshi. with all the masters who came before him, all their names written out, and he was even kind enough to write the pronunciation. I think that's his hand writing in the pronunciation, and he gave this to me, which must have taken him a long time to do, so it's a great sort of honor and makes me kind of tear up. So sorry I forgot to even show you that. But the bottom line is, if somebody's a real Zen master, they'll get a lot of stuff. There's a lot. It's like Christmas. You get a lot of stuff. Anyway, that's it. If you want to support me and having a place to store my stuff, you can send a donation to the URL you are seeing, or you can go to the URL you're seeing below on your screen, which is hardcorezen.info/donate. That is hardcorezen.info/donate, and then you can send me a donation via PayPal or Patreon. Those are my main means of support. Really, 98%, 99% of my money comes from your donations, and I really appreciate your supporting me. But as always, you don't have to donate if you don't want to, because I offer this for free, and we will see you later. Have a good time all the time. Bye. Hey, Ziggy. What you doing? Did you go back inside? Did the scary man go back inside? I guess you were saved. You didn't have to play with the scary man, right? Alright, you want to go back inside with me and edit the video? Alright, we'll do it.